Thank you everyone for joining us today on our second video in this video series of optimizing business efficiency. Today, we're going to be discussing how applying Lean Six Sigma and hyperautomation can reduce rework in information assets. Today, we're going to just briefly go over information assets, also that why rework is so costly, things we can do about it, and then we also do have a case study on how we use hyperautomation to reduce rework in a business process. So, quick review from our previous video. Information is an asset. We have to remember that information is considered an asset because it has a cost and a value to an organization. And just like tangible assets, like machinery or raw materials, information can be used to generate and improve decision-making and create a competitive advantage. Now, to help us think of this, to help us with our mindset in using information as an asset, because it is one, is to think of it as a raw material flowing through a manufacturing process or flowing through a supply chain. I personally like to choose the manufacturing plant because that's what I'm used to. Other people like to use the supply chain. And we're going to be, and when we think of it, it's easier for us to picture now how we can use Lean Six Sigma methodologies to improve the workflows and reduce costs and increase or add value to it. So as this flows through the manufacturing plant of our computers, and through our business, the information starts as a raw material we've collected. We've started to the creation of it, whatever it might be, and then we're constantly processing it and refining it as it goes through, and then it's going to eventually be delivered to either an internal or external customer, where it will have a significant increase in value. So with all types of processes, especially manufacturing processes, we do have rework that does happen. Unfortunately, rework is very costly for several reasons. First of all, the time that's required for the rework, it requires additional time for people to, first of all, find that defect, then address the defect, and it takes people out of that flow. It also, which then applies to our labor, where we have additional resources and personnel having to correct that. It's going to reduce our quality as well, because things are having to be repaired in a way or reworked. It reduces the quality of the final products as well, because there's only so much time that unfortunately we can commit to these. A lot of times we're under a deadline, and so we might have to push this out. So it's going to reduce our quality as well. It's going to reduce our productivity. We're not going to be able to produce as many assets as we want. It's going to really disrupt this flow. And the other big thing is it's going to really decrease our employee morale. Employees, all workers, I know myself included, really constantly going back to the same thing and having to redo it over and over and over again is demoralizing. It really eats at you. And if you're starting to do this more and more, and there's more and more rework to be done, it's going to really lower your employees' level of engagement. It's going to end up increasing their productivity and a lot of other things. It's going to increase your attrition rate as well. So that is something else we have to consider here. We talked a little bit about the increased time and the increased labor. It's also going to increase your costs. Now, so there is a rule that is called the 110-100 rule in manufacturing. And it applies very well to rework. So what it means is that for you to produce something all the way through the process without any errors costs you $1. When you have an error through the process and you discover the error before it goes out the door to the customer, it's going to cost you about $10 to repair that, about 10 times as much effort, resources, whatever it might be. If it goes out the door in a defect and it or a defect goes out the door to a customer, whether that customer be internal or external, it will cost you about 100 times, or say $100, because that product that has to be transported back to you, it has to be completely reevaluated. It has to be completely reworked. There's a large cost with once it goes out over to that customer, whether that be internal or external. So examples of rework in information assets: correction of data entry errors. So fixing incorrect customer information in a database, correcting process errors. So redoing a report that was generated because we had the incorrect formula in, say, our Excel spreadsheet or whatever it might be. Revision of documents, revising that proposal over and over again, redoing a contract because there's different changes or requirements or errors in the original document. Resubmitting information, so resubmitting that invoice or resubmitting that payment because we had missing or information in there. Whenever we reschedule a meeting, that is a sign of a rework. Rescheduling a meeting because maybe we had the incorrect location, or maybe we had the incorrect date, or maybe we weren't thinking about different time zones. When people are having to reschedule those meetings, we are reworking the schedule of that meeting. And then retransmission of information. So retransmission or resending an email or a message because there was missing information in that email. Or maybe it can also be uploading files or downloading files, and there is an error in them when we're doing that, or having to redo it because it timed out, or we had an error that way. Whenever we're having to do it a second time, that is a rework. So ways to reduce rework in information assets. Some of these you may already be doing in your business, and we're going to go through all of them. So the first thing is you can implement quality control measures by having people double check or look at information before it's submitted. Can help you catch errors and reduce your rework. The issue with this one, though, when people are rechecking it, again, they could err on missing an error, but also it's more labor intensive because they're having to do a review of it. We can provide additional training and resources, so providing employees with training and improve their understanding of the skills and process in information can reduce the likelihood of errors. But again, because we're dealing with people, we can still have more error, or we can still have those errors be existing. And again, we're being still dependent on the employee or the worker to review it. Now, establishing clear communication protocols. So this is where when I come into a lot of companies, I see that a lot of companies might already have this in place, where they have a standardized form or templates, or sometimes even like a knowledge base or a manual to ensure that the information is transmitted correctly and accurately to avoid rework. So they already have a form. The form might be very, very basic, though, and not optimized as well as what it could be. But it's a good start. So improving process design. So when we reevaluate and improve the design of information processes, we can reduce the likelihood of it. So when we go and look at that whole, when we process map the whole thing out and we look at the whole process, we can reevaluate and we can see, okay, what can we improve on? Maybe we can add something new here and really try to eliminate or maybe have information pass automatically through things. And that will really reduce the likelihood of our errors and rework. The other point is implementing data validation or verification. So again, we're going to go and we're going to start doing verification. However, we're going to start to use software maybe to do that. A good example of this, of software doing verification, is a lot of accounting software has different verifications that they use to make sure that if something's off, it's going to immediately alert you so you can go ahead and correct that one location, or it would narrow it down, or when someone tries to enter something that it knows it can't be right, it'll immediately warn that person right at the entry point. Then this is the big one. So if we automate manual tasks and we take the manual tasks out, such as data entry, such as report generation, and document review, this one is the biggest one where we can greatly reduce the likelihood of human error and rework. And that is the one where we are with hyperautomation. We're doing kind of all of this, but that's the big one. That's the big key to reduce this and to the lowest level we possibly can. So we have our case study, which is a quotation process that a manufacturer uses, and how we improved it using hyperautomation. This manufacturer has several different product lines. This one particular product line that they have to do the quotation with is part of their fabrication line that they provide. And so so when we first met with the client, we were talking to one of the managers, and we asked them if they could just give us an overview of what they believe the process is. And so they told us that, so now, just so that you know, that this is separated into swim lanes, this flow here. So everything that's in this line here is what the customer is doing. Here's what the sales rep is doing, and then here's what the drafter is doing. And the drafter is someone that wears actually two hats. They're a customer service person primarily, but they do drafting as well. So the customer is first going to email or phone the sales rep, the regular conversation that they have between them. The sales rep is going to then confirm the receipt of that information. The sales rep, they informed us, is going to email the drafter. It takes them about 15 minutes or less to go ahead and shoot out an email to the drafter. The drafter will then go ahead and create an AutoCAD file, which will then be emailed in a quotation form to the sales rep. And then the sales rep is going to create an email and send it off to the customer, which, when it goes off to the customer, it's got a 60-day to respond or time limit on that quote. So at the end of 60 days, this quote will have a value of $0. Or if the customer would sign for it, that value would then be transferred over to the acknowledgement form, which then would flow through the rest of the process later on, which I'd be happy to have a discussion with anyone on it later on about how information flows through, but it would eventually flow through to the invoice that would be eventually invoiced to the customer. So this was what the client's view was. This was their perspective of what their process map was for all of this. We then had a discussion with the sales rep and saw their process. We also had a discussion with the drafter and watched actually their process as well, and really saw it to understand it very well. And we then reassessed this and came up with a new process map. So you can see after we sat down with the sales rep and the drafter or customer service person, we found out the actual quotation process was a bit more involved than what was originally thought. We put this out into a process map. Again, we separated this into swim lanes. So we have the customer request, the customer down here on this level. We turned it sideways this time so we could fit it all on page. We have the sales rep, which will all be his or her activities along this line, and then we have our drafter here, or our also known as our customer service representative. So again, we have the email or phone call going from the customer to the sales rep, and the sales rep going ahead and confirming receipt. That is the same. That has not changed at all. The sales rep will then email the drafter the specs. The drafter actually then has to read that email and has to check to see if they fully understand all the specs that they are asking for. Are there any questions with it, or is it something that's pretty standard? If it's not, the drafter is then going to go ahead and email the sales rep for clarification or call them. And then we start this whole loop back on over again. If it is well understood, then the drafter is going to check to see, is there a template in AutoCAD for it? Now, they have a lot of standard ones that they do use, but occasionally they do have one that is completely customized and different. So if it's not, they're going to have to create a new design in AutoCAD, which is going to take them 1.25 hours. Now, if they do already have a template in there of one that they've done before, or that's very similar, it just needs a couple of adjustments to it, they'll make those adjustments. It takes them about a half hour to do it. After they've made the changes to either by creating a new design or by editing the template, they're going to create that AutoCAD file. They're then going to copy and paste the AutoCAD image into the quotation form, which is a Word document. They're going to add the model number to it as well. The quotation form was then saved and created. They're going to then attach that. They email that off to the sales rep, which will then come back to the sales rep. The sales rep is going to check it and say, and see, is the draft image and the form correct? If it's not, then we're going to go all the way back here to the very beginning, and the sales rep is going to have that email correspondence or phone call correspondence with the drafter, and we're going to have to go back through this whole process again. If it is correct, if the sales rep says, yep, this is exactly what I'm looking for, they're going to calculate the price from their price sheet and add it to the form. They're then going to go ahead and review it, and then they're going to go ahead and create an email to send to the customer and send it on off to the customer, where again, the customer has 60 days to respond to it. Now, as you can see, this is a bit more involved than what was originally perceived. And so that's why it's very important, I always say, to really get to know the workers right on the level and to map it all out, create your process map. So just so that we can calculate out how much this is costing us in rework, is the hourly labor cost is about $30 an hour. Now we're going to break down the rework per quote. So the average labor without errors. And so we're assuming that we're going from the email here to say, yes, there is a template. Yes, yes, yes. All this is going through. We're going to say yes again and going through there. So assuming that we have no more decisions of no's in here. Also that when they typed everything pretty much perfectly, that they're not backspacing and redoing it. Not even the drafter is going ahead and say, is he resaving this or recreating a file? So it takes on average 2.13 hours for this whole process without any errors. Now, the average error for office work, well, is between 1% and 5%. We're going to average this out to 3%, even further. So office work 1 to 5%, we're saying it's 3%. Now, using that 110-100 rule, the cost to correct an error. So we're assuming this has not gone out to the customer yet. This is still all in process. So it's going to be, we're going to use that multiplier of 10. So if they are making a 3% error, for them to correct that 3% of error, it is costing them 30% of their average labor. So, or 0.64 hours of labor total for And this is for every quote, mind you. So the cost of rework per quote is $19.13 per quote. Now they do on average about 10 quotes a week. And we can quickly see how this adds up. So they are spending just under $10,000 a year in just rework of this one process, of this one quotation process. Now, they have additional costs here too. That's just labor costs we're looking at here. We have the sales rep is spending an additional 2.4 hours a week on rework. The customer service rep, who's our drafter over here, is spending 4 hours a week on rework. So that's time that they cannot spend doing the jobs that they were intended to do. They are concentrating on just rework of quotes. So how does this additional costs add up here? Well, you're really going to miss opportunities because of delay of quotes to customers. Anytime we have rework, we're delaying our time to market. So now the customer is waiting longer for that quote. Maybe they heard from the competitor and they decided, you know what, that the other guy didn't get me the information I need in time. I guess he doesn't want the business. The other thing is too, our sales rep now is spending 2.4 hours a week on rework. That means 2.4 hours they cannot be spending on calling on maybe new accounts or building that rapport with current accounts and doing the upselling and whatever they do there. The customer service person, because they're doing the drafting work on the side there, so they're not able to support the customer when the customer calls in and maybe has a problem with an order or wants to do a small order that normally would bypass the sales rep in that case. So it's taking time away from them giving that customer service there. And then, of course, as we discussed before, this is going to increase the attrition rates and also the training time that we're going to have to do for. So if anyone gets replaced in this or leaves the organization, such as the person who's doing our drafting or our salesperson, they're going to have to be retrained on this whole process. They're going to have to train on what they're having to look for. And because they're spending so much time, I mean, the sales rep could be like, look, I'm here to sell people. I'm not here to rework quotes for a good part of my day. So those are additional costs that can be detrimental to a company. So if we go to our quotation process where we have it with Hyperautomation, you can see it is smaller and we're back to the vertical swim lane. So customer request here and sales rep is along here. You notice we're missing someone already right off the bat. We don't have that customer service person there, that drafter wearing that drafter hat here at all. So again, the customer is going to go ahead and they're going to request their email via email or phone, and the sales rep is going to confirm receipt. The sales rep is actually going to now, instead of sending an email, they're going to go to a site, and that site has an online form in which they are going to enter the information directly into the form. The Hyperautomation will then read that and immediately create the engineering image by adding on and manipulating that image according to the specs that were entered on the form. It's going to calculate the price for them. We're going to add information, the price, the engineering, the image to the quotes, and saves the files to the correct location and displays the file to the sales rep for review. So the sales rep doesn't even have to like reopen it. It just shows it right there, right for them, so that they can see it right away for them. So the sales rep then has the opportunity to then check to see, is the draft image and the form, is it all correct? Does it look right? Does the quotation form look right? If it's yes, because this customer wanted to make sure, or this client of ours wanted to make sure that They still wanted that human touch. They didn't want this to just automatically send out automatically to the customer. They wanted the sales rep to be able to add something a little more, help build that rapport, be human. The sales rep can then go ahead and email and send it right off to the customer. Now, if the draft image is incorrect, he just simply goes back and re-enters it into the form. It's not a lot of work for them. So once they go ahead and send that email off to the customer, again, the customer has 60 days to respond to it. So let's take a look here then. So again, the hourly labor cost is $30 an hour. And let's break down what the rework of labor will be per quote now. So the average labor now without any errors, so without the sales rep having to go back and saying, no, this is incorrect, is 0.3 hours without any errors. Again, we're going to say the average error rate for entry, whenever you're doing data entry, whenever people are pounding on keyboards and doing that office work, they are going to average, or they're going to make anywhere from 1 to 5% errors. We're going to average it again at 3%. Again, using the 110-100 rule, the cost to correct the error is 30%. So now we have 0.09 hours of rework. So our new cost of rework is going to be $2.70. They produce 10 quotes each week. So we can see how that now adds up to, now they are under $1,500, actually under $1,400 a year that they will be working on rework for this. Additional value that we created for this and cost reductions is now the sales rep has an additional 1.5 hours available per week. The customer service has an additional 4 hours available a week. They're completely out of this whole equation. Okay. So the sales rep, now they have an extra hour and a half. I know that if I had my sales rep and I gave them an extra hour and a half, I'd be really happy, because I'd say, hey, now you can go ahead and you can do that extra meeting with a customer a week. You have the time to set that up now. The customer service person, they don't have to do drafting anymore. So they are completely freed up. They are not doing 4 hours a week in rework. They are completely freed up to help those customers. And this will also help them increase their win rate of their quotes as well, because now customers, the time to market is much faster. Those customers are getting those quotes much quicker. They know how to, they now, you're helping those customers, you're helping them make great decisions on what they can do, and will really help close those sales. And we're going to also decrease our attrition rates and our training time, because it will be much easier for us to just explain to just one person how to fill out the form and what to look out for. And we removed a total of 11 different processes of possible rework, or 11 different points of possible rework. And we remove that communication with the additional worker. When we remove a process where we have communication with another worker or with another person, it immediately alleviates different bottlenecks and also additional rework or miscommunication that can happen between multiple people. So we ended up, by just rework alone, just calculating the rework alone, we reduced the rework costs by 85.9%. We created, or we ended up with an annual savings of $8,475 in savings annually. Plus, we also added the value of increasing quote win rates, and also decreasing the attrition rates and the training. Now, this also opens us up for a lot more opportunities here, a lot of new opportunities that we have that we didn't have before, that would be impossible to do if we did not use hyperautomation. So now, since hyperautomation, since this information is coming into a system, and we're able to handle that data and those information assets and change it, now we can go ahead and we have improved quality of of our information asset. Now, our quotes for this fabricated part will all look the same. In the past, we were depending a lot on manual entry. So all the quotes could look completely different. You know, we could have different ways to describe things. There's a lot of variation that can happen because we have people involved. When we take those people out, we eliminated that variation. Okay. We also can now take, as that information goes through, it opens us up now. So now we can see insights and analytics on this, where we can now start to see who's buying, what are they buying. We have that opportunity now that we can start to get that report from it, and we can expand our hyperautomation to get that out of there, which with those analytics is going to help us with the better decision making as well. And it will get us real-time information as to what is going on with these quotes. We'll be able to see when these quotes were created, when the request came in, immediately be able to see when they're about to expire. We can do things such as let the sales rep know that, hey, you need to follow up on this right away. We can do a lot of different things with it. This also increased scalability. So now we're able to scale our business even more because we've just opened up so that it doesn't require as many man hours, as many manual hours on doing this. So now we can scale our business and we can accommodate for the data. We can be a more info savvy organization as well, and data driven to make decisions at a much faster pace. So if you are ready to start your digital transformation and leverage your technology, by all means, go to sixsigma.techtastic.com. I'd be happy to sit down and have a conversation with you about your business processes, see where the best place we could use hyperautomation in your business, and really help you out in reducing your rework. Now, in our next video in our series, we're going to be discussing applying Lean Six Sigma and hyperautomation to eliminate overproduction. See you then. Bye.